Good evening. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Got a couple more minutes to go. Well, we've got a few people joining, so nice to see you. Evening, Debbie, Jeremy. So, who else? It would be great if those people join in. I do love to see people. If you're able to, be great just to pop your camera on. Alan, good evening. Alex, hi. Good to meet you. Adrian, hello. I'm assuming that you can hear me okay. Excellent. Great stuff. Right. We're up at 10. We've got another few to join us yet. We've had quite a lot of take up for this first one, so which is good. We'll get going shortly. I don't know whether you've all had chance. I did pose a little question for you actually in the email that went out. Um, And if you have a thought on that question, I was asking you about how often your mind was busy. I think it was always, sometimes, often, rarely, never. Just pop it in the chat. We'll have a little talk about that a little bit later as we go on. Jamie, welcome. You seem to be 90 degrees out of phase. Great stuff. Right. Thanks, Jeremy. Right, so we've got still a couple more people to join. Most days. Hey, Holly, good to see you. Hannah, thanks. Most days. Good. Me too, by the way. Yeah, me too. I'm going to talk a lot about that to start with this evening. Right. Well, look, what I think I'm going to do, as it's now just gone 7, if it's okay with you, and I don't think it will be too disruptive, I'm going to start and then we've got another few people expected to join, but I'm going to crack on if that's all right with everyone here. So, oh, hang on, someone else. Oh, here comes Zoe and another Jeremy in here. Okay. So, oh, and more. And now they all come. Hi, Zoe. Good to see you. I think I've seen Nick join as well. Um, so I think what are we looking like? Yeah, great. Okay, so we're going to kick off. Thank you all so much for coming. Before I get into a little bit of introduction, thank you for introducing me to an emotion I haven't felt since I was a kid. This is the launch today of a new part of our business called Thinking It Better Me. And the emotion you've introduced me to, can you remember when you were a kid and you brought a picture home from school and someone stuck it on the fridge door? And I don't know whether you can remember how that felt, but what I feel like this evening is I've got 18 people who have stuck my picture on their fridge door. So thank you. Thank you for actually at least coming along and listening a little bit to what we're going to be talking about. A couple of introductions to start with. Some of you I have met before. For those of you I haven't, great to meet you. I hope we talk again. So my name's Ian Travers. I'm the founder of a company called Thinking It Better. I'm a dad. I'm a runner. I'm an aspiring Jedi Knight. I get involved in all sorts of stuff. And for the last 13 years now, I've been doing Thinking It Better, mostly working with people in business, leadership teams, people in motorsport, teams in motorsport. And it just got me thinking that it's not ticking a box for me. There's what about me? What about all the me's out there? So Thinking It Better Me was a twinkle in my eye. We ran a pilot last November, and that's really what this is about. And it's very, very much focused about it's the fun bit, it's not the corporatey bit. It's actually what about me? What about me? Might I just be in my own way? And we're going to kick around a little bit on that. So, with me on the call from my team, because I've asked you all if you would put your cameras on, which is great. Matt is going to lean into shot now. He has not got his camera on because he's sat in the same room as me. Matt is our chat host this evening. So, if you've got any questions at all as we go through, please, if you're happy to do so, fire them into the chat, and I'm going to try and answer them as we go through. And any we don't get to, I'm going to allow us time at the end where I'm going to sweep up anything else which we've got in the chat. So that'll be brilliant. Also on the call, who hasn't got their camera on, is Hannah. Hannah's giving us a wave now. Hannah is part of the TIB team on the social media side and the media team. And Hannah's going to be taking loads of notes for me this evening. So you probably only see the top of Hannah's head. Hannah will probably depart now, and we'll see her face again towards the end of the call, but we'll have a camera off. So that's the team here, the production team, if you will. Right. So what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about how humans work. How humans work. Now, I guess I should introduce this a little bit because there is so much available out there in the thinking and the headspace and the mindset piece. There's so many people pushing all sorts of different tools and techniques, and many of those are useful. But I've always been of the opinion that there's no one tool in the toolbox to fix the car. So what we're going to talk about is a collection of principles here, which call upon material from a host of different approaches: CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, neuro-linguistic programming, positive psychology, neuroscience, the wisdom of life. All of those things, they all get mixed up in a pot, and I'm going to try and sort of deliver them to you in a way that I think is helpful and understanding. So I'm going to basically talk about how human beings work. I'm going to cover four things. The other thing I really wanted to cover before I get into this is great thing about human beings. We're all the same, but different. That's a bit of a quirky thing to say, but imagine a forest. Yeah, they're all trees, but there ain't two that are the same. And my view here is let's address the things that are what's the common features between us. And what we're going to talk about this evening, four principles I'm going to cover, they are valid whatever your diversity of thought is, whatever your level of neurodiversity, whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse. The bits we're going to be talking about this evening is the fundamental building blocks, the bit that makes human beings human. Now, the messages and insights which I hope that you'll get from what we talk about this evening are probably all going to be different for each one of you, because you will hear and take something different from the different stuff that I say and that we talk about, and that's brilliant. So I guess that's just to bear in mind here. What I'm not going to do is tell you what you should do. That's not what this is about. This is about introducing you to how humans work and seeing if I can help you gain some insight this evening, which would be helpful, and maybe discover that there are things that you may unwittingly be doing which might just be causing you or others you know to be in their own way. Is that okay? Right. So first question I'm going to ask you is, I'll ask you to put it in chat. I asked you about how often your mind is busy. I'm going to ask you now, right this minute, right now, today, this minute, in this moment, while you're sat on this call, out of 10, if 10 is heads all over the place and 1 is I'm calm and serene, just fire into chat. Where are you between 1 and 10? Brilliant. Yeah. If you'd asked me 2 hours ago, I was probably a 5. 15 minutes ago, I was probably a 10. Yeah, and now I'm probably a 2 now. So great variety. So the first principle I want to talk about is this thing about how humans work. And I want to show you a picture because this thing about having a busy mind is actually normal. It's absolutely normal. Um, Snow globes. You're familiar with a snow globe? How many of you, if you think about within the snow globe, that every one of those snowflakes is a thought? And some days, you might be 1 and 2 in it, and there's hardly a cloud, there's hardly a snowflake in the globe. And then someone does something to you, and we've just shaken the snow globe up, and now it's like a flipping blizzard, and you can't think straight. And that is completely normal. So the first thing I want to cover here is that human beings and having thoughts is normal. Let me explain why. I don't know whether any of you have had the joy of playing with one of these. We don't have one anymore because it broke, but a bubble machine. Now, why am I showing you a bubble machine? Human beings and thoughts are like bubble machines and bubbles. As long as you provide power to a bubble machine, it'll keep blowing bubbles. As long as a human being is alive, it will have thought. That's an interesting one. That means that not just when we're awake, anyone here ever have really wacky, weird dreams? That's because we don't stop having thought when we go to sleep. Lots of different stuff happens as well. There's some really, really clever stuff happens, flushing memories out and clearing our desktop overnight. But fundamentally, as long as a human being is alive, it's having thought. Now, because we're getting quite clever with neuroscience and fMRI imagery and that kind of thing, there is a growing consensus now that somewhere between 50 and 60,000 thoughts a day is what we have. So imagine that. 60,000 thoughts a day, all going on, all raging through our head. And that is normal. Because bear in mind what some of those thoughts are. Some of those thoughts are you're driving a car. How many of you think about, oh, I've got to press the clutch pedal now. Oh, it's time to change gear. They are so programmed. It just happens. If you drive a bike or race a car, you won't be thinking about, oh, this is my turning point, and you just feel it. It just happens. And they're all covered by some of those 60,000 thoughts. The problem with human beings is that sometimes we try and wrestle all those thoughts to the ground. Now, what do I mean by that? And this is where you get a busy mind. Because these 60,000 thoughts that are happening all through the day are completely normal. But then we sometimes do unhelpful stuff is we grasp onto that thought and we start thinking about it. What's the difference? Okay, let me try and demonstrate to you what I mean by the difference between a thought and thinking. Please don't tell me the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you a question and I'd like you to bring the answer to mind. I'm going to ask you, bring a figure to mind of the sum of money that you'd be happy earning in the next 12 months. And just raise your hand just to let me know that a figure's come to mind. I don't want to know what it is. Yep, something popped into your head. Right. That, folks, is a thought. Now, you've no idea where it came from or why you've arrived at that figure because you probably thought about it many times before and that has just popped into your head. That's one of the 60,000. Now I'm going to ask you another question. Multiply that figure by 10. Imagine earning that now. Now what's happening in your head? Some of you are thinking, bring it on. Awesome. Some of you are thinking, you're having a laugh. That's not me. Or some of you are thinking, how? That's thinking. What happens is we have this little thought that popped into our head, but now we're trying to wrestle with it. And when we think, the process that happens up here is we take all of our beliefs that we've learned for the past few decades, and we now layer them on top of that thought. And this is the first little symptom that we might get, the first little inkling we might get of where we might just be in our own way. Because, and I found this when I was coaching runners, we said, we're going to do a 10K run. When we're going to do that? We're going to probably do that in 4 months' time. If I said to someone who came and joined me to start with, you're going to do a 10K in 4 months' time, what do you think they're going to say to themselves? Not cutting out chance. No, no. But someone else might say, awesome, can we do it in 2? So same situation, different mindset. One is a helpful one for what they want to achieve and one's not. Is this making some sense? So what happens is that's the difference between having thoughts and thinking. But the point I really want to make at this point is a lot of people who have a messy head or just can't think straight, or things just don't kind of seem to work out. They think that the problem is with their busy head, whereas actually it's normal to have 60,000 thoughts. When we're born, we have, you can split human beings into 2 main constituent parts at a higher level. We have physiology and we have psychology. You can't unlink them, but they're the 2 bits. And when we're born, essentially they're perfect. We have a perfect physiology and we have a perfect psychology. As we grow, our physiology pretty much stays on track and we don't have to think much about it. So if we were to cut our thumb in the kitchen, what do you need to do about it? Do you need to get a flip chart out or read a book, or does the body just sorts it out, doesn't it? You might stick a plaster on it because it's the wise thing to do, but you don't need to do anything to heal that cut. It just happens. Our psychology, when we're born, is perfect. And you can see this in kids as well. They will ask silly questions. They're not limited by a lot of beliefs that they might have misunderstandings that they've got. And we start to think that when we get through the decades, that there's something wrong with our thinking. Our psychology needs fixing. We need someone to help me fix my psychology. Well, it's a bit like blue skies and clouds. The blue sky is always up there. There's always a blue sky every day, but often it's got clouds in front of it. And our psychology is like this. We actually have, our brain is there to keep us alive, and it's there to keep us safe, and it's there to help us do what we need to do. But sometimes we just fog it with misunderstandings, and it's some of that I want to talk about tonight. Does that resonate? Does that make sense? So it's there. We just kind of get in our own way a little bit. So let's go a little bit further and talk about how the mind actually functions. So if the technology is working with me here, and I'm doing this without a safety net, I'm going to now flip and I'm going to draw you something. So can you all see that picture okay? Great. So what we've got here, this is a cone. This is stretching out into the future. So this is the future cone. And this here is the past. So this bit in the middle, any guesses? Current moment, it's the now. Now, these 60,000 thoughts a day that we have, I wonder how many are in which bit. So you're in the shower in the morning. When's the last time when you were in the shower that you smelt the shampoo? When's the last time in the shower you were conscious of how the water felt when it actually dropped on you? Probably not often. What are you doing in the shower? You're thinking about getting the kids to school, getting to work. What have I got to do when I get in the office? We're already processing what's to come. So what we're finding is we've got a lot of activity going on out here. Familiar territory? We're thinking about next. Even when we're on the road, you're driving somewhere. Are you enjoying the drive? Or are you thinking about what you're going to do when you get there? The other place that humans spend a lot of time is back here. And they start thinking about woulda, shoulda, coulda. Could have done that better. Should have done that different. Wish I'd said that. Shouldn't have done that. And if we're not careful, we can get a lot of unhelpful regrets come from there. And what we find ourselves doing, humans can spend an awful lot of time flitting between future and past all the time. And every now and again, if we're lucky, we pay a visit to the present moment. Does that make sense? Now, okay, so what's the point? Are we just saying we should never visit the future? Well, no, absolutely not, because intentional visits to the future is where we plan. It's where we dream. It's where we think about what we want to achieve, where we want to be. And think about the past. Yeah, let's reflect. Let's, what happened? What can we learn from it? What can we do to take it forward? And there'll be some pleasant memories that we might want to think about at times as well. But, and here's the thing, we're at our best in the current moment. And let me illustrate that for you. I'd just like you to bring to mind, if you would, and again, I'm not going to ask you to share what this is, but just bring a moment to mind, which is a proud moment, something where something happened and you were proud, delighted, happy, whatever descriptor you want to use, but you were really, really pumped, happy, serene, whatever that emotion is. And just indicate to me that you've just got a thought. So I'm not going to ask you what it is, but just let me know that you've pulled something to mind. Okay, thanks, Alex. Yeah, Adrian, great. Holly, thank you. Yeah, Jamie, Jeremy, Debbie, thank you. Right. And again, I'm not going to ask you to tell me the answer to this, other than let me ponder this question. What were you thinking when that happened? When that happened, what were you actually thinking about? Well, I'm going to suggest you're going to struggle here, because I don't think you were. I think you were being. I think you were just in the moment. I don't think you were thinking about it. I think you were just being it. So, if you do that perfect golf drive, or that perfect dart throw, or that perfect speech, or that perfect guitar piece, or that super walk, or the birth of that child, or the crossing the finish line, you are so in the moment and you're actually flooded with emotion. You feel. Does that make sense? Now, we can extrapolate this very quickly and say that human beings perform at their best in whatever they're doing when they're in the current moment. So, and I'm going to have to go to a motorsport example here. So, when I've worked with drivers, and it's interesting when you talk to people who aren't aware of this. Also, I suppose you talk to sports people about, emotionalizing the finish line and, holding the cup above their head and whatever it is. I says, well, yeah, I do in the months leading up to it, but that's not what happens on race day. Where do I want the mind of a racing driver to be when they're on the grid? I want it to be here and now, right in this minute, because I need you to have a little bit of processing power left off for the jiggery pokery that's going to happen on the next few dances around the lap. So we don't want to be doing too much thinking. So it's this: how do we get ourselves in the current moment? We perform our best in the current moment. So back to this past and present and future cone. What about fear then? What about fear? Where does fear fit into this? Well, what is fear? When we are afraid of something or something causes us to fear, I think there's a process that goes on in our head. So we've covered how humans work. We've talked about the difference between thoughts and thinking, and looked at this cone, and all this thinking goes on. But in the now, we don't think, we just be. So the next thing is how we experience life, and fear has a big role to play here. So if I was to say to you, how's your day been? You're likely to respond with an emotion. Say, oh, Ian, don't ask. Awful. Or, great, Ian. Super day. Thanks. So you respond with a feeling. So we experience life by feeling it. Awesome performance. Great guitar piece. Lovely walk. Great pizza baked. Great time with someone I want to spend the time with. We feel when we're in that moment, we feel. Yet fear what we do is we tell ourselves a story. So rather than deal with what's in front of us, we actually react to the story. So we feel life. So I'm pretty much sure you won't have experienced this, but anyone here ever been cut up by another driver? Yeah, ever happened? Yeah. So what happens? How do you feel when another driver cuts you up? Do you say, "Oh dear, that was a shame. I really wish they hadn't done that," or do we tend to give them some advice? Yeah, and you can feel the hackles on your neck standing up. So we experience life by feeling. Um, where do feelings come from then? Where do feelings come from? How do we feel? Who causes us to feel? And I've got to give an example here of my two sons. And I know when they were both a lot younger, and one said to me about the other, "Oh yeah, but he always he makes me angry, Dad." Well, it wasn't the time to say it then, but one brother didn't make the other brother angry. It was a feeling, and that feeling came from a story that they told themselves about the other person. Let me give you an illustration. The person who cuts you up on the car. So you might think, how dare you? How dare you? Who do you think you are? No one ever teach you to drive. What's the matter with you? Have you got no manners? All that story goes off in your head. So that story goes off. The emotion that, so you're thinking, how dare you get in my way, how dare you inconvenience me, you rude, you inconsiderate person. And then you feel, and if you feel anger, and then that emotion causes you to act, lean on the hooter or whatever. What about if I change the facts here? Because you have no idea, by the way. What about if that person, if I tell you now that just cut you up, pulled in front of you, their 8-year-old daughter is currently in accident and emergency in a critical condition. They've just been run over by a car. How are you feeling now? Would you let them in? What's changed? The only thing that's changed is our thinking. And this is a pretty key thing about how we experience life. Is there's a chain of events. Using all our senses, we perceive the outside world. It could be a smell, it could be a sound, it could be a feeling, something we touch. We then play out a story in our head that we have learnt about that. And that story then causes us to have an emotion. And that emotion then causes us to act. And that's the chain of events. So I'm going to show you just another picture here. Yeah, I'm just going to show it. Let's just see. Okay. I don't know what you're like when you see a picture like that. Anyone here not a fan of spiders? So when you see that picture, what are you feeling? What are you feeling right now? Can you feel sometimes there's even maybe a bit of a shudder down your spine? You're feeling a little uneasy because, well, hang on a minute. What's really happening here? Because there's not a spider. I'm showing you a picture of a spider. So your visual sensors are interpreting what you see on this screen and are saying that's a spider. And we're now playing a film script that our head has written over the last few years, decades, whatever, which is saying, ooh, creepy crawly things, don't like them. So our body doesn't wait to see if it's real or not. It's learned that we need to play that script. So it plays the script. We perceive that it's horrible. We feel, and our body probably shudders. And if you had a choice, you'd probably step a few paces back away from it. Does that make sense? But the chain reaction is perceive, think, tell the story, feel, act. Perceive, think, feel, act. So when I asked you, where do feelings come from? Would you like me to get rid of the picture of the spider? Let's just do that. Ah, that's better. There we go. So when I ask you what causes us to feel, it's not the brother. It's not the kids not getting ready for school. It's not the other driver. It's not the boss. It's not, and the list goes on. The only place a feeling can come from is a thought. It's the only place it can come from. So if we want to change the way that life impacts us, because we feel life, then maybe we need to think less. Because it's the thinking, and for the thinking, I mean the film script that we play. Our brain is brilliant. It's designed to tell us stories, and some of those are helpful. So if you're walking around downtown New York in the evening and there's a dark alley that you might be tempted to walk down, and your brain's going to tell you some stories now because it's seen a few movies, it's read a few books, and it says, wouldn't do that if I was you. You're probably going to get shot, beaten up, or whatever. That's fear doing you a service. So that's a useful bit of learning that you've got. But when that rehearsal, when that film script is someone says, how about running a 5K or a 10K with me? Well, you up for that? And they play the film script that says, yeah, me and running, I don't do running really. That's not me. I don't do that. So the film script that their brain has played is, I don't do it. Therefore, the action is, I won't even try. And if you don't want to run, then that's absolutely fine. You know, we don't have to do everything. But do you see, we're not reacting to the thing. We're reacting to the story that we tell ourselves about the thing. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anyone here able to predict the future? No? We drew this picture a while back, didn't we? And we said we can spend a lot of time thinking about this out here. Well, hang on a minute. If we can't predict the future, are we wasting a bit of processing time here? Now, remember, intentional visits to the future, great. Planning, researching, dream building. But if you're now stood in such an incapacitated state that you're waiting for conditions to be right because that's what your brain has told you, then you'll never move. You might just be in your own way. There's a great book which I would like just to now if you expected me to lift a great big psychological profile or a tome on neuroscience, I'm not. I'm going to show you this. Anyone read this book? If you haven't, it takes like 10 minutes and you've got to read it. Let me just read you a quote from this. This is from Dr. Zeus. And it says here, for the people just waiting for the train to go, for the mail to come or the rain to go, or the phone to ring or the snow to snow, or waiting for their hair to grow, to everyone just waiting for the fish to bite, waiting for Friday night, or a pot to boil, or a better break, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. Ever see yourself in that? We're just waiting. We're just waiting for that story. You know, I'll be happy when. I'll do that when these certain conditions are met, because that fits with the story that I tell myself in my head, because that makes me happy. But remember, the way we experience the world around us is we perceive, not what's actually there, but what we think is there. We then think about it, we have a feeling, and then we act. And just sometimes that might be a misunderstanding. You remember the blue sky and the clouds? I would call a lot of the clouds are the misunderstanding. Not everything, but in a lot of cases, our cloudiness in our psychology is just misunderstanding. It's just because we're trying to wrestle, we're trying to think about those 60,000 thoughts, rather than in many cases just accept that it's a thought that's going to pop into my ear one side and pop out the other side, and it'll probably come round again. I don't need to solve it. I don't need to worry about it. There's a lovely quote, if you've ever seen the film Bridge of Spies, where right early in the film, this guy who's a double agent is being his house is being turned upside down by the CIA, and he just sat there calmly. I think he's sipping a cup of tea actually, and the guy says to him, "Are you not worried? You not realise the gravity of this situation?" And he just turned to him very calmly and said, "Oh," he says, "I'm sorry. I hadn't realised that worrying would help." And I think that's a lovely quote because often we spend so much time in the future, we'll convince ourselves to not move. Another quote from Dr. Seuss. Told you it's a good book. I've got three pages marked here. And here's the thing. We mustn't believe everything our brain tells us because it's really good at building stories. So I'll quote Dr. Seuss again. "And when you're alone, there's a very good chance you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that will scare you so much you won't want to go on." Wise chap, this Dr. Seuss. There's a book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Fear sometimes serves us well, but often when we are thinking something and we've got the butterflies in our stomach, just maybe it's a misunderstanding. I'll tell you a little personal story of fear and how it's only ever a thought away to change, getting in our own way. And again, this goes back to when both my boys were a little younger and we were going to Alton Towers theme park. I have never been one at that point for rides. Now, I'm an engineer by background, and I'll be the one who held the coats and the bag. And I would be analysing all the stuff that could possibly go wrong with that roller coaster. And then when news stories like what happened on Smiler came up, I mean, that would be enough to convince me never even to go to Alton Towers again. But it was all right for my wife and my kids to go on it. Okay. Yeah. How crazy is that? So I got a grip, and I found myself in the queue for, I'm not sure what it's called now. It changed its name. It's the one where you lay flat, you're looking at the ground and you're strapped into this thing. And I felt fear, real fear. I mean, you know when you're feeling fear, right? It's not just a thought. It's your whole body quakes. Your heart palpitates. You feel hot. You feel cold. But I knew that it was more important to me. I believed my dad role was more important than my being scared role. So as we're in the queue, I'm saying, this is going to be great, isn't it? I didn't believe that for 1 minute. But I'm saying to myself, this is going to be awesome because I'm just trying to keep that voice quiet in my head that is telling me with every bone of its sinew and dendritic brain to get the hell out of that queue. But I stuck with it and I stuck with it. And eventually, you know, the bit where they let go of the chain and suddenly now you can walk forward and you're next on. And I'm strapped in there and I am feeling this. I mean, I am terrified, absolutely terrified. And we're strapped in. Now the conversation stops. The mouth goes dry. And I made a decision. And I remember making the decision. I just thought, you just got to let it go. There's nothing you can do now. You just got to let it happen. You've just got to let it happen. And I let it happen. I actually went like a rag doll in the harness. I can remember it so vivid. And I just went limp in the harness. And off we went. I think my eyes were closed for most of it. But then we arrived back and we stopped. And my question to you is, what happened next? Well, I'll tell you. I joined the queue again because it was awesome. And I thought, what the hell? Where have you been? That day, I rode Nemesis 7 times and I only stopped because I felt sick. And that was nothing to do with psychology. That was all to do with not wanting to see what I'd eaten earlier on. We're only ever one thought away from getting out of our own way. And that one thought, suddenly, our brain learns really quick. And if suddenly we tell our brain, that's not danger, That's cool. Then your brain goes, okay, got you back. Your brain doesn't need to know if it's real or not. Okay, how are we doing on time? Right. I wanted to do this in about 45, so we've got a little bit of time to talk at the end. So let me just take stock of where we are. How do humans work? We're the same but different. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. We can have a really, really busy mind. There's nothing wrong with a busy mind other than we're trying to do too much thinking rather than just let those thoughts pop in and pop out. Thinking versus thought. Thoughts are natural and they come from it's from touch, feel, smell, all our senses, as well as audible signals that come in. They cause us to have thoughts. You're never going to know where they came from. It's pointless to even try and analyze where did that thought come from. Who cares? It's popped up, it's gone again. But then sometimes we start to think too much. I've got to do that. I've got to fix that appointment. I've got to fix that tire. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Or I've read this book and it tells me that when that happens, I need to think this, and I've got to do my mindfulness, and I've got to do my breathing, and I've got to do this. And I'm thinking more to try and calm that brain down. Less is more. Relax into the harness. Let it happen. Let the thought pass. Just like I did in that ride, just let it happen. Let it go. When that someone cuts out on you on the road, too much thinking. Oh, well, their loss. Where they get the license. Rice Krispie packet. Make light of it. No one died. So how we experience life, we feel life. Our interface with life is feel. We feel things. But feeling can only come from one place. Only one. It can only come from thought. Now, in that very short nanosecond of time, you perceive with your senses. You don't see what's there, you perceive. You see the spider, you perceive danger because you've got a story rehearsed in your head that says spiders are bad, spiders are horrid, spiders don't feel nice, spiders are creepy crawlies. So with thinking, we're playing that story, we're actually analyzing what we've now just seen. We're thinking, and it's the thought about the spider that causes us to feel fear. Working with a client once, and she came to a realization of this. She'd had a particularly shoddy day at work, and she'd stopped. I don't know whether you know it. There's around Derby in the UK. There is a Starbucks on an island, a Little Eaton Island, and upstairs in the Starbucks, there's a big sort of extra seating area. All the tables look the same. All the chairs look the same. And she was sat up there with a latte next to a window, sat in a leather chair with a round table in front of her with a coffee on the table, and she was feeling absolutely shocking. She'd had a really bad day. It wasn't working for her. And she glanced up and noticed that just across the room, sat at the same seat, obviously not the one she was sat on, but the same kind of seat, next to the same kind of table, next to a window, was someone else on their own. But they appeared to be happy. And she just got to thinking, hang on a minute. I'm here feeling like shit. I'm sat in the same place with the same cup of coffee as they've got, and they appear to be having a great time. The only difference is what I'm thinking. The only difference is what I'm thinking, because feelings come from thought, not from the world around us. So that's where we're up to so far. Okay, so far. Okay. Last piece. So how do we react to the world? How do we react to the world? Well, this is kind of led you to it now, but how we react to the world, well, we react to the world based on the film scripts that we've rehearsed over our life so far. And it depends how many of our scripts that we've rehearsed in our head are helpful to what we're trying to achieve. Listen to the language of people around you. Listen to your language. Listen to yourself. How many times do you say to yourself, I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. That's not me. Now, if that's not something that you're particularly bothered about doing, I won't worry about it. But what if it is? What if it is? We're in February now. Um, so January was the free sample. We've now got another 11 to do. You've got 320 odd days left this year. Every page is a blank page. Now, are you going to write what's on that page? Are you going to let some ridiculous stories of your head stop what you're going to write on that page? If you've ever read the book Jim Lawson Taming Tigers, I was on a call with Jim Lawson a couple of weeks ago, actually. It's quite an interesting book. And he describes that we will have a tiger. We go to open that door that we've always wanted to open, but our tiger stands between us and the door and growls at us. So who's filling in the pages of your book? You or your tiger? You or your creative mind? You or the stories that you're inventing to stop you picking the spider up? So we react to the world by what we think about. And I think the one thing I'd say, without knowing specifics about anyone here on the call, the one thing in general about human beings is we do too much thinking. So busy mind's okay. Busy mind letting thoughts come and go is really good, really helpful, because you might get some great ideas there. But a busy mind that's thinking about stuff and trying to wrestle every single thought to its knees, whereas you just don't need to, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You can't predict the future. So be careful about what you choose to think about. Some thoughts just want, if there's nothing you can do about it, then lean into the harness. Let life happen and reserve your precious processing time for stuff that matters. Does that make sense? Right. We are nearly there, actually. I want to finish with a quote from here, but this is really where we get in our own way. Too much thinking is a symptom of getting in our own way. So there you go. It might be a good time, if you want to pop your microphones on now. I've got one quote to share with you, and then we'll just see if anyone's got any thoughts or questions. So let me just share with you this last quote from Dr. Seuss. It's the last page, and it says, "So, be your name Baxbaum or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai Ali, Van Allen O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get out of your way." So, if you'd like to come off mute, thank you for still being there. Anyone, any thoughts? Oh, last question. Of course, I've got to ask now. I asked you to put down your score out of 10 for how busy your mind was about 45 minutes ago. What's it like now? Has it gone up or down?
Down.
Down.
Down. Strange. What's the difference then? Okay, right. Has that been useful? I'd be interested. This is the first time we've done this in this format. Questions, comments. How's it been? Has it been useful?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was that
brilliant? Absolutely brilliant.
Okay, go on, Holly. If you got a question.
No, I was just going to say how much the bit about trying to wrestle with all our thoughts resonated with me, because obviously we're all having thoughts all the time, but I definitely try to solve all of them or multiple thoughts at once and end up actually getting nowhere because they just go around in my head and I'm just trying to think, well, how am I going to solve that and what do I need to do about that?
Yeah.
And really, I should just let them go because I'm just wasting energy trying to deal with them all.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of, techniques we can use here. Write them down. Sometimes if our brain knows it's parked and we're not in danger of forgetting about it, our brains have this strange thing that we have this belief that if we keep thinking about stuff, then we'll somehow stop it happening. Question for you. How many people here have thought about the country India today? Is it still there? We believe so. We don't need to think about stuff in order, we have this thing, well, if I don't keep thinking about my fitness, I won't get fit. No, it's not the thinking about fitness that gets you fit. It's the doing in the current moment. So yeah.
Is that the difference, Ian? Because I was going to ask that question, because obviously you made a comment around, sort of letting it go and just, and now, of course, if you just let stuff go, you're not going to get anywhere. So what's the difference between thinking about something? And I suppose the answer is you go and do it, don't you? I've probably answered my own question. That's kind of the...
Well, yeah,
I mean.
let me help you with something here, because I get where the question's coming from, Nick, but you're right. To get into the do, to get into the action is what you need to do. We can think and dream about all kinds of stuff, but a dream without a plan will never happen. And a plan on itself is no good without action. So you do have to do. However, one thing that's really important to do, so we've covered some basic principles here tonight, but there's kind of some precursors here that are that need to be in place for us to really maximize our benefit out of this. Is you're going to know what's important to you. And I know that sounds something blindly obvious, but for many of us, we haven't actually thought about that. What's actually important to you? Or are we just chasing the money? Or are we chasing the likes? What is it we're actually chasing? What are we here for? Why am I here? What am I trying to do? Because then we can select. Actually, that would be a really useful thing to think about, because I think that could help me get where I want to get to. So let's spend a bit of my time thinking about that. But that one, who cares if they don't like what I posted on Instagram? Who cares if they don't like the fact I've not cut my front lawn this week? It's not important. So there's a precursor to this, which is, to actually have some reflective time. And that's where I start with when I'm working with any individual, because no two people are the same. But what are you trying to achieve? What's important to you? Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, 100%.
Okay. Right. I think we've got some questions from the chat. So go for it, Matt. What have we got?
Cindy says she's got a bit of background noise, so didn't want to come off mute. Fair enough.
Okay. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks.
Yeah, so she just asked if you could just quickly clarify what those 4 principles we've gone through.
Great. So number 1, how humans work. Our psychology is fundamentally perfect behind the clouds. So having 60,000 thoughts a day is normal. So if you are having a busy mind and you're having difficulty with it and it's making you feel crap and you can't get your head in the right place, there's nothing wrong with your psychology. It's just you've got some misunderstandings in there of how you're interpreting the outside world. So principle number 1 is it's absolutely fine to have 60,000 thoughts a day, but let them come and go. Number 2, recognizing the difference between thinking and thought. Thoughts come and go. Thinking is where we wrestle them. And it's being conscious about where you place your attention. Remember that cone? So I like to use the term mentally fit. And the more mentally fit you are, the more time you spend in the current moment with intentional visits to the future and past, the more less mentally fit you are, if that is grammatically correct, means you spend more time in the future and the past, both of which, by the way, the past is gone, never to be recreated again. The future you can't predict, yet we spend a lot of our thinking time there with occasional visits to the present moment. So that's principle number 2. How we experience life. We experience life by feeling. We feel life. But the important thing here is that a feeling can only come from one place. And I can't stress that enough. A feeling can only come from a thought. So the outside world doesn't cause us to feel. The outside world, we perceive it consistent with the way that we have learnt to see the world. We play a script, we think about it, which causes an emotion, and we act on behalf of that emotion. So principle number 3 is we feel life, and feelings can only come from a thought. Principle number 4, the way we react to the world is 2 things. One, the way we react to the world is we react to our perception of the world. We react to the scripts that we've learnt to play in our life. And the point is we have a choice. So principle 4 really is we have a choice. And it's to start to be aware of and be cognizant of the fact that, am I reacting because of a story that my head's telling me, or is this really right? So number 1, 60,000 thoughts a day. Perfect psychology, often covered by clouds. Thinking versus thought. Number 2, where do we place our attention? Do we do lots of thinking about the future and the past, which is unhelpful? Intentional visits with more time in the present moment. We experience life, we feel it, and feelings can only come from thought. How we react to the world is those scripts which we've rehearsed in our head, and a flick of a switch, they come on when that car cuts us up. And it's recognizing to check ourselves and let it happen more. More is less. More time being, less time thinking. I like to think of this as I never like to run an event and leave people with a to-do list. I like to leave people with a to-be list, and that's really what Principle 4 is about. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? So sort of quick once round. Debbie, useful?
Yeah, all good. Yes, I enjoyed hearing you in person. So it's
yes,
good.
Of course, you've had a sneak preview of some of this, haven't you, Debbie?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, great. Adrian, just a question to you. Has that been useful? What have you taken from this evening?
Sorry, yeah, it was definitely great. I liked everything about it and learned much things, I would say. And I will try to integrate them in my daily life for the next days.
Excellent. There's a great quote from Yoda from Star Wars. There is no try, only do or do not.
I will do.
Yeah. Jeremy, Aston Phillips.
Well, Ian, you are my sort of personal Yoda, so I think that's quite apt. I have the serenity prayer on the wall of my office, which says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and this is the most important bit, wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, there you go.
That's I actually searched to see when it was written. I'm not quite sure when it was written, but it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
And it's that whole thing about not holding on to the thoughts that are complete bullshit.
Yeah. We've all got a brilliant record. We've got 100% survival record of life so far. Sometimes we forget that. And that doesn't mean we haven't been through some shit. But we're still here. And sometimes we need to give ourselves a break. You know, we most of us have the wisdom, if we were just to allow ourselves quiet moments to actually listen to ourselves, because we listen to ourselves more than anyone else. We really do. Alex,
the other bit I like.
Oh, sorry, Jeremy. Go on.
Is remembering the why. And that's so important. You know, why do we get out of bed in the morning? It's not to earn money. Well, it is to earn money, but that's not the why.
Yeah. Alex, just before I come to you, another question coming from Cindy, or is it a comment?
That really says that sometimes the problem comes from worrying about what others think about us.
Oh, absolutely. Isn't that so true as well? And haven't we made that? Hasn't society made that worse? You know, chasing likes. If you ever watched, excuse me, let's get a drink of water. If you ever watched Black Mirror at all, very interesting one. And, you know, we can get wrapped up in being really bothered about what someone else thinks about us. I guarantee you, 99% of the time, No one gives a damn. So be you. Excuse me. Right. So, Alex, I was going to come to you. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting the part talking about the cone in effect and more so the performance factor of what got you, thinking about the present is where you were happiest. You weren't thinking about what's gone on or what's to come. And in a sort of day-to-day life thing, trying to probably think and be more present to actually get a better result for the future is quite interesting. Wasn't so keen on the spider though.
That's
To be
only because
honest.
your brain's telling you a story, though, right?
Yeah, it's quite a graphic story.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, comment there from Holly. And what's the comment there? Just
Yeah, so I mean, there was a comment, wasn't there, about social media?
yes.
Sort of place for judging, prejudging, and worrying about what people are thinking. But Holly's just mentioned the flip side of that is that social media also can be a tool that's used to find people and make people laugh. So
yeah, let's be really clear on this. I am not anti-social media at all. I think it's a great tool. And if you've read any Yuval Noah Harari, social media is something which gives us as a human race a fantastic ability to cooperate. And I've seen great examples of where that's the case. But the thing that can be really unhelpful is dopamine addiction. And we get into scrolling mode. And all we're doing is we're feeding the dopamine because it's a very, very quick fix. And there's lots of measures of society now which would lead us down the avenue of being very concerned about the way we are consuming social media, that is fueling what we've been speaking about tonight. Very interesting book if you get the chance to read it. It's called Stolen Focus. A very, very balanced, very, very interesting read, and the link between what's happening in society now and the increased diagnosis of any attention deficit disorders. So it's a really interesting space. But yeah, we need to tread carefully, and we're all different. We're all trees, but we're all different. And some of us will have a propensity to deal with it better than others, and some not. So thanks, Alex. Yeah, that performance thing is really quite interesting. When I've worked with anyone in the performance space, whether they've been a performing artist or whether they've been a racing driver or even an athlete, people talk about being in the zone. And we perform our best in the zone. You'll know when you're in the zone. You've all been there. You'll know when you're in the present moment. Because maybe it's a book you're reading, or you're with some friends, or you're painting a picture, or you're doing a thing which you really enjoy doing, and suddenly it's 11 at night. How the hell did that happen? Where did those hours go? You were in the present moment. You were being. Psychologists will call that the flow state. And we perform our best in that. Can you imagine being in a racing car, where tenths of seconds count? And I've seen this happen, great example. And momentarily, you start thinking. Now, the last person I saw this happen on, I was on the pit wall, and they were about to get a podium position, one lap to go, and it was at Brands Hatch, and they've come past the pits. So they're coming past the pits, and their board had been out, and they'd suddenly seen where they were, and they glanced and suddenly processed the information, and they lost several tenths and blew it, lost the next corner. So we got to trust ourselves as well, that when we are in the zone, let's just try and keep ourselves there. How will you know when you're in the zone? Well, you won't. You'll only notice when you leave it. Does that make sense? So yeah, this whole performance piece, when it comes to performance as well, and people talk about, I need to, I need some of this stuff, some motivation and stuff. I'm going to fix this. Well, I guarantee you the time to do this is not during race season. It's between race seasons. Who was the guy who took over many, many years ago the British rugby team? Clive Woodward, Sir Clive Woodward. And he was one of the first people to really take some of this psychology seriously with the British rugby team. And he said it was more to do with what they do when they're not on the pitch than when they're on the pitch. And they did a lot more training about plays and thinking and scenarios, and less time in the gym and on the pitch. So it's hugely powerful. Where have we not been? Alan.
Good evening, Ian.
Good evening.
We could spend days, if not weeks, talking about this, and I seem to remember that we have spent days and weeks talking about this in the past. Yeah, I mean, as I said to you the other day when we met, for me, it's a case of, can I control the situation? If the answer is no, then the only effort I'm going to put into it is just making sure that I'm aware of what could go wrong if that scenario comes to light.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm going to waste no more time on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and find something better to do.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And to me, I know it's difficult. Not everyone can do that. But if you can do it, it's a powerful tool.
And
you've got to basically not worry about what people think about you, though.
Yeah. And the great thing about the human mind is it learns quick.
Yep.
It learns really quick. My example I gave you of that fear, most human beings are only ever one thought away from being happy.
Yeah.
One thought.
Okay. The adage that we are our own worst enemies is absolutely true when it comes to things like that.
Now, where have I not been? Zoe, I think you've just disappeared off my iOS screen, but I think you're still on.
Hello.
Zoe.
Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I loved it. Yeah, I can really identify with that cone illustration of overthinking the past and overthinking the future, and it's something I'd really like to get better at, is just being a bit more present, for sure.
Great. Super. Well, look, thank you all very much. I guess a couple of things I should just talk about for a couple of minutes is this is the launch of Thinking It Better Me. So we're going to be doing another one of these. We're probably going to do quite a few of these free ones go through the year. Obviously, we've touched the surface here. What's coming next, and it'll be hitting socials over the next week or so, is we're going to run a 6-week course. Which is 6 weeks, 1 hour in an evening for 6 weeks, where really, to take Adrian, your point here is to help people try. So we're going to take the principles, we're going to go deeper in the principles, but we're actually going to work with a group like we've done on screen here, and actually go through how can I make this work for me. We're going to work on some stuff and get people coming out the other side of a 6-week course, really, really able to get out of their own way. So that's going to be coming next. I guess my only ask of you this evening is if you have enjoyed this, we'd love to hear about it. So drop us an email. If you don't already, please follow Thinking It Better and the One Thought at a Time podcast, and me even on Insta, because that's where we're going to be doing most of our marketing is through that. We will copy it onto LinkedIn as well, but we think our people that we are likely to be on that platform. As I say, it is about Thinking It Better Me. It's about individuals. And, that's not to say that in time we won't help someone in a business, but I'm really, really interested in helping and working with individuals for this part of Thinking It Better. So there you go. Thank you ever so much. We will email you with a link to a recording of this. So you'll have it for your record as well. And we'll keep you abreast of what's coming next. So Matt, nothing else on the chat? So thank you to Matt, and thank you to Hannah for hanging in there. Thanks, Hannah. And thank you all for attending. Really, really, really great to see you all. So thanks very much. Speak to many of you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was excellent, Ian. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
Thank you ever
superb.
so much.
Okay, you
Right.
have a lovely evening.
Great. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.